And it's a line drive to
Key lime margarita?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Just watch.
Whoa.
Hi.
Go for it.
Thanks.
What about me?
Got you covered. Hey!
Whoa.
Hey!
Hey.
Hey.
Lefty O'Doul's drink mixes at these fine stores.
What are you doing? I'm getting the girl back.
I just knew too much.
Live from the Gold Dust Lounge at Fisherman's Wharf, it's the Will and Willie Show.
From the live studio audience.
Brought to you by Lefty O'Doul's Drink Mixes, your bartender in a bottle.
And you are? I'm Will Durst.
And I'm Willie Brown.
And that's?
Chuck Nevius.
Chuck Nevius from the San Francisco Chronicle. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I'm Paul Wells, your third banana, and Ed McMahon.
Genial host. You're the traffic cop.
And he's been that for a long
Speaking of cops.
time.
Yeah.
So we were talking about what's under the frock when we left.
It's like asking what's under the kilt.
Yes.
Well, I think that there is a certain amount of truth. We were talking in the break that there is a group of very powerful Catholics that are very concerned to the direction of the church with this new pope. And I think they're doing all they can to undermine him, and maybe their most fervent hope would be to replace him. And it's a long shot, and I think they're battling against the tide, but they are definitely of the opinion that if they can promote this conservative agenda that's going back to old Catholicism, that there will be a wave of support. And
Who's leading them?
Cardinal Burke. Cardinal Burke, now you're going to trip me up here, because Cardinal Burke had a very important job with the canon law. He was with the Vatican law. He began to criticize the Pope, and he began to criticize. He was, in a very unusual move, moved over to the, I think it's the Knights of Columbus. It's a charitable organization. In other words, he was given Knights of Malta. Thank you very much. From the vast crowd here in the Gold Dust. Thank you. That's exactly right.
Guy's name is Phil Ryan.
Phil Ryan. Thank you, Phil. And
Who's the Knights of Templar.
and on one hand, it was a demotion, but on the other hand, it freed him up to say whatever he wanted to, and he has renewed his criticism. And he was the person, I think, who was responsible for getting Cordileone into San Francisco.
How did Francis ever get elected?
I am surprised at that, too. He did a little bit of political work.
Politicking?
Well, I think a little politicking. I think he tacked to the right to get elected, and then when he got the job, I think he moved back to the middle and maybe a skosh over to the side of the middle, to the left of the middle.
But I suspect, though, Chuck, on an evaluative standpoint, it's so late in his life. This is probably really who he is
Yep.
and whom he's always been.
Yep.
And with the power now, he's in a position to exercise it, knowing that, tomorrow he and Herb will be discussing it.
Well, the same thing happens to Supreme Court justices.
That's good. That's a good analogy, I think, yes. I would just stress that I'm a failed Presbyterian, so I don't know anything about Catholicism, but that's my understanding.
I was brought up Lutheran. My dad was Lutheran. My mom was Catholic. My stepfather was Presbyterian, and my mom's mom was Jewish. Wow. So I had a little bit of everything.
You guys really missed. You have no idea how it is to be a Baptist.
Yeah,
No.
Oh, yeah.
No, you guys look like you have more fun.
Oh, are you kidding me?
At least at church.
We can ask forgiveness for everything.
Well, you certainly had better music, that's for sure.
Let me ask you, how did you end up focusing on the Catholic Church? Because there are now multiples of your columns in which you have addressed the issue. You said yourself, it's been because it was incomplete in each one of your columns.
Are you saying I've turned that into a bit of a hobby horse, that I'm kind of riding that?
No, I would never
You know what the answer?
suggest that.
You actually answered the question, what you said earlier, 3 columns a week. You need a topic, and we were talking about how difficult it is to come up with a topic. I'll tell you, you don't know what it's like to be a columnist until you close your car door, walk across the parking lot on Monday morning with the thought that in 4 hours you're going to have to turn on a column, and you don't have one.
Nothing.
You got nothing. And
you get to pump out, what is it, 650?
Yeah. Oh, no, 800.
800
words, yep. 28.
Willie, how many words is your column on Sunday?
Whatever
He doesn't
The answer
know.
to that question
I don't,
before you
seriously, I don't have a cap. I can go as long as I want to go.
As long as Phil Material wants you to go. Isn't that how long?
I had a better editor.
Man, you haven't liked a movie at all
believe
this
in no
summer.
ghosts.
Oh, no, the movies have been terrible. As a matter of fact, tonight when I finish, I'm going to see I'll See You in My Dreams.
Have you seen, you didn't like Mad Max?
Oh,
Did you like Age of Ultron?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay.
We're
What
gonna-
opened on Friday? Tomorrowland, have you seen that?
What's Tomorrowland like?
Nobody
seen that?
told me.
George
Oh,
Clooney,
okay.
yeah.
And then
It's
San
disappointing.
Andreas.
Yeah.
opened.
Yeah.
Yep.
We were saving this for the fourth segment.
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah,
All
let's
right.
bring
No,
it
no.
up.
No, never mind. I want to ask Chuck,
Uh-oh.
does he miss sports?
That was our fault, Paul. I was going to say, San Andreas.
Because he was the sports guy.
You know,
Yeah.
That's how I first
Yeah, sports
focused on
columns.
Chuck Nevius.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, when he moved from sports, the first thing I said to him, I bumped into him somewhere, because he really is a rare guy on the news circuit.
Right.
You don't see too many of the real news guys on the circuit. Chuck is one of them. He
Get out a little bit.
actually goes out and interacts with people. When I saw him, I said, "Hey man, why did you quit writing about sports?"
You know, when I got to be twice their age, it was kind of hard for me to relate. You know, the players got younger and younger, and I got older and older, and I started to think, I'm not sure this is...
Well, if I set that standard,
That's a good standard. That's it.
I was going to go the other way.
oh my God, I'd be in trouble.
Hasn't heard Art Spector?
I'm twice
Right,
everybody's
right,
age.
Right.
You're having a dyslexic birthday, so you're 18.
Yeah.
If I could have just covered the Olympics, I went to 8 Olympics all over
Holy
the world. If I could have been doing that, I would have stuck with it. But it gets to be a bit of a grind. You know what's funny is that the happiest people in the sports department are baseball writers. And they have the sweetest gig because they never have to come up with what they're going to write about because it's right in front of them, 162 games. They travel all over the country. They get tons of frequent flyer miles. Then they get 3 months off and they fly wherever they want. Their expenses are taken care of, and they are the gloomiest.
And they go to spring training.
And they go to spring training. You know, they are a gloomy, gloomy group, and I don't know what the deal is.
Well, I don't know. They do some good writing. Sometimes it's a little confusing from what I saw on TV. But
Do you when I started, it was Bob Stevens. Do you remember Bob Stevens?
I remember about you.
Now, there was a baseball writer, and when I started, we would listen to the game on the radio. That's how long ago it was. And when the game ended, the last pitch, the phone would ring, and it'd be Bob Stevens, and he'd say, "Are you ready?" And he would dictate
The
a
story.
25-inch story off the top of his head
No kid.
using the scorebook. And he was a wordsmith. He was really very good.
That is literally a stroke of genius when you could really watch the debate at the convention between all the parties and then put the deal in and then proceed to report it without going back and checking any of the facts and do it all from the standpoint of your own head. That was the genius of Herb Cain.
Yep. Yep.
We would attend events in the city, and at the end of the evening, he would start telling me what occurred, and I had missed it all.
Right, I know. Well, he came up with some stuff. I always remember when I think he called the Willie Brown Bridge, he called it the car-strangled spanner. I mean, that is...
Car-strangled spanner.
That is so good. I mean, it's just, he was just
But
so
for the
adequate.
benefit of those of you listening, that is not the way the bridge comes. Since it's been named after me, it flows smoothly.
Well, just
You know, we have such great writers at the Chronicle. I mean, people dismiss it, and I know, but the President movie, they made
All
fun
the
of
President's
it.
Men.
All the President's Men. They
wanted-
made
they
fun
wanted
of
to
the
sell
Chronicle.
yesterday's
But,
horoscope.
You think of the writers that we have on that paper.
But we'll keep in mind that the Chronicle was always a writer's paper.
It was.
It was never a reporter's paper. It was always a writer's paper.
Well, Stanton Delaplane.
Oh, yeah. Well,
John
Eric
Wasserman.
Kane, Art Hoppy, John
Art Hoppy.
Wasserman, yep, absolutely. Chuck Nevius. Oh, I'm sorry.
Chuck Nevius is our guest on the Willie Willie Show.
You were part of the crowd.
Okay.
It really was a writer's, and it still is, frankly, a writer's paper. Don't go there looking for the news.
Well, you know our motto. Our motto at the Chronicle is, if it's news to us.
Even Steve Rubenstein.
We appreciate
he
your
doesn't really have
time.
a beat. I love his stuff.
But they send him to, as soon as we saw the whale wash up on the beach, it was like, Rube, get out there. The sports thing, people still mention that I used to write sports. So I'm walking down Market Street the other day, and there's a man and a woman sitting at an outside table, sidewalk table. And the guy sees me, and he goes, "Wait a minute, you're that guy." And I was, "Well, that's me." And he says, "You're Scott Ostler." Very close, very close.
All white guys look alike.
They do. That's
Well,
it.
I want to ask you about San Francisco, because you've covered that a couple of times, the changing nature of the city and how, it's just price, and this is happening all over the country, I know. Nobody can afford to live in Brooklyn anymore.
Right.
Jersey's the new Brooklyn.
No, you're right.
Queens is the new Brooklyn, so.
Bronx is the new Bronx.
But
Well-
San Francisco, what's going to happen here?
Well, it's interesting, as the Bay Guardian called me a conservative suburban twit because I used to live out in Walnut Creek when we were raising our kids. But my wife said to me this morning, "Do you know what today is?" And I said, "No." She said, 5 years ago today, we moved back to San Francisco. And
Good timing.
Yeah, we live in, no kidding, it was a great time to do it. But what we bought and what the building that we're in, compared to where it was 5 years ago and where it is now, we'd still be in Walnut Creek. We couldn't afford this, and it's just insane. We live down in Mission Bay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for that development.
I got to tell you that I was down there last week for the groundbreaking for the last piece on the north side of Mission Bay. And I'm going to be there every day of the week if there's something happening with Mission Bay, because that's really that's my pleasure. I really did that. It was a rail yard before I got the city to cough up the number of square feet given to the University of California to have them not go to Brisbane, not go over to Alameda, which is what they were debating, if you recall, and to have them put all of their genius medical stuff in Mission Bay. And they did. 5 million square feet of biotech spec space built for that purpose to surround it. We really do have in San Francisco now the genius of the world in medical science married to technology. It's unbelievable. And my goal was to figure out how I could live forever.
You know, when
I hope it works, man.
When the Giants built the ballpark in 2000, I sold the Chronicle.
That's another one of mine.
Was that yours too?
The Giants ballpark, they failed 3 times before the Texans showed up.
Yeah,
89.
Yep.
89.
So-
The election was what, 1 month after the big one?
Yep. Art Agnes, ask Art Agnes about that. He'd be happy to talk about how the earthquake messed that up. But I sold the Chronicle when we were building AT&T on a thing called the Ballpark Chronicles. And every month I would go out and talk to the people who were building the ballpark, and we did feature stories on that. But going out there in 2000, it was abandoned concrete warehouses. There were rats, and I mean a lot of rats.
And if you remember, there was a shelter there. I closed that shelter.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, you remember there was a homeless shelter on that site as well.
Yep, probably, yep. And there was, I hear about this a lot, there was a driving range too.
It wasn't.
Oh, yeah, I
As a matter
remember
of fact,
that.
the driving range just closed.
Yeah.
The driving range closed about 3 years ago.
Yeah. That
Make
was,
way for more housing.
Yeah, unfortunately, I tried to buy the driving range.
Did you really?
Yeah. Because I'm telling you, you have no idea how many golfers there are in San Francisco that want to go during the lunch hour, and you can charge them anything,
yeah.
and they will.
Well, now you can.
Well, I don't know if you know it, but the putting green just sold for $1.5 million.
Well, we're hearing horror stories of one-bedroom apartments, and we should cover this in the fourth segment, because...
And I want to thank C.W. Nevius for being our guest today on the Will and
My
Willie Show.
pleasure.
Hey,
My
buddy.
pleasure.
We'll come
Thanks
back.
for coming.
As a matter of fact, let me tell you, with all due respect, this guy is great copy for verbal purposes on television and radio. And Nevius, among the Chronicle columnists, is one of the few that actually can talk.
Oh my gosh. Is $5 enough, or how much?
No,
do you
hell
want
no, don't cheapen my.
Well, thank you, Mayor Brown. I
No,
appreciate that.
that's a lifetime thing now.
No, they have 2 or 3.
Someday he will come to you
No,
and
they
ask
have 2
for
or
a
3
favor.
people that and believe me, I'm trying to talk Audrey into doing a
Yeah,
show.
she'd be good.
I'm
She'd
really
be good.
trying to talk her into doing a show.
Yep.
It may get her fired ultimately, but I'm trying to talk her into doing a show.
Live from the Gold Dust Lounge at Fisherman's Wharf, thank you again, C.W. Nevius,
Thank you.
for being a guest on the Will and Willie Show. I'm Paul Wells with Will Durst and Willie Brown, and we'll be right back for segment 4.